Welcome to This Explainer, where we're going to completely rethink how you learn and grow. I mean, what if I told you that every single day somebody else is actually deciding what you think about, what you believe, and ultimately who you become? It's crazy, but it's the hidden, often totally ignored danger of our modern world, the trap of passive consumption.
Seriously, who is deciding what you think? Because here's the truth. If you aren't consciously directing your own education, social media algorithms, outrageous news headlines, and whatever random content happens to show up on your feed are actively programming your brain for you. Most people genuinely think they're making their own decisions, right? But in reality, they're kind of just running on the automated scripts handed to them by their phones.
Section 1. The hijacked brain. Okay, let's dive into this and see how your brain actually works under the hood. So the core concept we need to talk about here is neuroplasticity. You really have to understand that your brain never stops learning, ever. It's learning when you sit down to read a dense, complex book, and it's absolutely learning when you're endlessly scrolling through reality TV clips or watching strangers argue in comment sections. Your brain doesn't care about your intentions, it just notices repetition. Imagine your brain is like a massive slab of fresh concrete. Every single experience, conversation, and social media post leaves a footprint. If you do that long enough, those footprints become dirt roads. And if repeated over and over, those roads eventually pave themselves into your default mental superhighways.
But here's the massive catch, and it's a big one. The problem we face today is absolutely not a lack of information. I mean, your phone literally holds more data and information than all of the historical libraries of the world combined, right in your pocket. And yet, we spend an average of 3 hours a day just looking at memes. So the real challenge in our modern era isn't finding things to learn. It's deciding which specific information actually deserves your focused, undivided attention. To figure that out, we've got to completely flip the script. You need to stop asking, "What should I learn?" and start asking this question instead. Who do I want to become? If you want to become a great parent, for example, your curriculum should be childhood psychology, emotional regulation, and communication. If you want to become a massive entrepreneur, well, you're studying sales, leadership, and finance. You have to establish the desired identity first and let the curriculum follow.
Biologically speaking, once you choose that specific identity, your reticular activating system, or RAS, kicks into high gear. This is your brain's internal filter. It's exactly like when you buy a brand new Tesla and suddenly, boom, you start seeing Teslas everywhere on the road. They were always there, but your brain just started paying attention to them. Once you decide who you need to be, your brain's filter suddenly starts finding the exact right teachers, the right podcasts, and the right books literally everywhere you look. Section 2. Knowledge versus skills. Let's get into the crucial difference here.
Knowledge without action is really just entertainment. Let me ask you directly, have all those hundreds of books and hours of audio actually changed your life? A lot of people in the self-development space wear their reading lists like a badge of honor. They're like, "I've read 300 books this year." But reading about confidence doesn't make you confident. Reading about discipline is definitely not the same thing as actually being disciplined. If you're just putting information into your brain and doing absolutely nothing with it, you're falling into the trap of mental masturbation. It feels highly productive, but it's a complete illusion.
And this brilliantly illustrates the divide. Knowledge is just raw data that lives in your brain after reading or listening. It's static. But skills are created through real-world application, physical action, and actual neural wiring. Your brain only truly changes through experience.
Section 3. The 5-Step Blueprint. Let's shift from being a passive consumer to an intentional learner.
All right, here's the exact 5-step system we're about to break down to completely rewire how you learn. Number 1, consume intentionally. 2, reflect. 3, apply immediately. 4, repeat for automation. And 5, teach it to others. Let's look closely at how to execute each of these stages flawlessly so you can level up.
Step 1 is to consume intentionally, not randomly. You've got to ask yourself what one specific skill would change your life the most over the next year. Maybe that skill is sales. Well, if it's sales, you ignore almost everything else. You stop collecting shallow, surface-level knowledge on a bunch of random, unrelated topics, and you obsess over that one skill. You get the books on sales, you take the courses on sales, and you completely block out the rest of the noise.
Then we move to step 2, which centers around asking this vital question. What can I apply right now? Every single time you finish an explainer like this one, a podcast episode, or a chapter of a book, you need to stop and reflect. Just journal it out.
Organizing the information on paper forces your brain to actually process it and format it, instead of just shoving it away in some dusty mental file cabinet where you'll completely forget it by tomorrow.
Step 3, apply it immediately. Do not wait for Monday. Do not wait for next week. Use that knowledge in action today. This is the absolute key. This is the step that so many highly educated people completely skip over. They've got expensive degrees falling off their walls, but their lives aren't anywhere near where they want them to be because they just aren't applying what they know. Immediate application is what actually forces those neurons in your brain to fire and wire together, turning flat information into a dynamic real-world skill.
Step 4 is where the real magic happens. Repetition builds automation. Think back to when you first learned how to drive a car. Remember how overwhelming that was? Gas, brakes, steering wheel, turn signals, checking your blind spots. It was way too much for your brain to process all at once. But today, you probably drive home from work having deep conversations and suddenly pull into your driveway without even consciously remembering the trip. That is because repetition turned a foreign, uncomfortable concept into an unconscious autopilot habit.
And finally, step 5. Teach it to expose your gaps. If you really want to own an idea, you have to teach it. Explain it to a friend, a coworker, your spouse, or if you're by yourself, just journal and teach it out loud to an empty room. Maybe just warn your roommates first so they don't think you're crazy. Teaching acts as this massive consolidator. It forces your brain to organize the information perfectly and instantly exposes the gaps where you stumble, showing you exactly where you need to go back and study a little more. It deepens your ultimate understanding exponentially.
Section 4. Protecting your attention. Now, what's really interesting about this next concept is, well, imagine if somebody handed you $1 million right now in a briefcase. You would protect it fiercely, right? You certainly wouldn't just let strangers walk up and take little pieces of it throughout your day. Yet your attention is infinitely more valuable than $1 million. And every single day we let apps, algorithms, and random drama steal it from us constantly. Protecting your attention triggers this massive logical chain reaction. Think about it. What you give your attention to determines what goes into your brain. Your brain determines your habits determine your identity, and ultimately your identity determines your entire life. Vigorously protecting your attention literally builds the physical reality that you experience every single day. So, I'm going to leave you with one final provocative question to think about. What kind of brain do you actually want to build? From this moment forward, stop letting the noise of the world choose who you become. Take intentional control of your learning, master the right skills, and step fully into the exact life you were meant to create.